States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Suzanne, could you do roll call?
Chairman Robb.
Here.
Vice Chairman Drew.
Here.
Commissioner Bliss.
Here.
Commissioner Lane.
Here.
Commissioner Macbeth.
Here.
Commissioner Leach.
Here.
Commissioner Morai.
Pete's here. I think he just stepped out for a minute. He'll be right back.
Okay. Commissioner Wallace.
Here.
And Commissioner Young.
Here.
County Advisory Boards, could you please stand and recognize you here?
Paul Dixon Clark. Bill Yana. Carson.
Brad Johnston, Lyon.
Lester Porter, Eureka County. Ivan Hudson, Eureka County. Bob Cook, Douglas.
Joe Creed, Virgin. Rex Flowers, Washington. Glenn Bunch, Mineral.
All right, thank you guys. Let's move on to agenda item number 2, approval of agenda. Anybody have any comments, concerns, or anything we need to take out of order on the agenda? Seeing none with the commission, this is an action item. We'll take it out to the public. Any public comment? Any public comment in Elko or Las Vegas?
No comment, Chairman, in Las Vegas.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to the commission for motion.
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Wall, second by Commissioner McNinch. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passed unanimous. Move on to agenda item number 3, member items and announcements, correspondence, informational. Any commissioners have anything they want to bring up that's not on the agenda today?
Hi, just make sure you guys hear this. Can you hear it? Okay.
Commissioner Lane?
Mr. Chairman, as I've previously talked about some of the issues that we're having at Sunset Park in terms of some injuries to particularly waterfowl there, and we've been working on it. There's been a kind of a multi-level group. We're still having a lot of issues, and we've gotten animal control involved, the park police, Endow has been involved to some extent. Fish and Wildlife Services have basically said they don't have any personnel available to assist us. But I think this is going to be an ongoing problem that we're going to have to address, and I don't know, in terms of Endow's issues, I know that, again, it's always an issue of manpower availability and the lack thereof. So I would hope that at some point, I guess what I'm just asking of the commission is that we can take a look at this issue, or that I can ask for Endow's assistance in trying to deal with some of the issues that we're having right now, and also talk to the Clark County CAB as well, because we can't seem to get some of these issues resolved. But I just want to make the commission aware that we do have problems in that area.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners have anything? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, County Advisory Boards. Member items informational. County Advisory Boards can bring forward anything not on the agenda, or if they're going to be absent tomorrow, if they have anything they'd like to bring forward. Eureka County.
Thank you. My name is Lester Porter. I'm the chairman for Eureka County Advisory Board. I brought with me today Raymond Hodson, which is the vice chairman. None of us can be here tomorrow for the tag quota topic. So with your permission, I would like to express our thoughts very quickly on where we're going with a couple of the issues there.
Definitely so. If you can't make it tomorrow, we'd like to hear what you have to say. So.
Okay, thank you. For all the deer hunts in Area 14, Eureka sportsmen don't feel the deer numbers are good there. We have some predator projects and some habitat projects in the works. So we would like to see the tags stay the same as last season, hoping to give the deer a chance to rebound in the next couple of years. In Area 13, all mule deer hunts, we are in agreement that the deer numbers are doing good there. It's a fun hunt because of the deer you see. All the sportsmen I've talked to, including myself, would rather wait an extra year or two to draw that tag to have a quality hunt. We believe the water and the feed can handle higher deer numbers there. We don't want to be so quick to raise the tags and possibly set that herd back. We would like to leave the tag quotas same as last year. Just see things and just wait and see how things look in next year's survey rather than such a big jump so fast right now. That's
Okay. Thank you.
all right. Thank you.
Appreciate you coming here. Any other county advisory boards have anything you want to bring forward? Seeing none, I will move on to agenda item number 5, approval of minutes from the January 31st and February 1st meeting. Has everybody had time to review the minutes, and is there any updates, questions, comments? Commissioner McGinch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 31, there's a motion that was made by Commissioner Bliss, and I'm not sure if the second was, looked like there might have been a typo in here or something, so Suzanne, I don't know, is that?
I don't think I could tell who it was. Why? From voice recognition.
So maybe it's okay. I just wanted to point it out, that's all.
Okay, anybody else have anything on the minutes?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Lane?
On page 44, in the public comment area, under the first, that first paragraph, I don't think that sentence, she, it is not typically for-profit or an individual. I think that just needs to be resolved. I'm not sure what it's supposed to say, but it's not clear.
Oh, it just needs said.
I can't refer to the person making that comment right now, so
It's missing said, I think, the word said.
okay. We may have to look at that and see if we need to make adjustments. But, anybody else have anything? I wish I could make a phone call right now.
What up, Brenda?
Do you want to table this to make sure that it reflects accurately, but I don't think it changes any of the outcome of what happened in the meeting.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If you look at the sentence before that, it says, she said it is not typical to grant an individual specifically. I think what they're saying there, it's not, they normally don't make a grant to an individual or a nonprofit. Normally they're conjoined with a nonprofit agency. I think you could just leave that last sentence out because I think that basically is a restatement of the sentence before it. So my suggestion would be just to delete that sentence.
If that works for everybody. Okay. Is there any other things we need to review on the minutes as presented? All right, seeing none, it's an action item. Anybody have any comments, public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the noted deletion from Commissioner Lane.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner McNinch, second by Commissioner Macbeth. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed unanimous. We're going to move on to agenda item number 6, tag allocation, hunt committee, mule deer hunting management, survey results. Bob Wayne and Ed Crumpy.
For the record, Bob Wayne, I'm the administrator for the operations division. Jack, I'll come back to you for a moment here if you want to make some open comments, and I'll introduce Dr. Crumpy.
Yes, the tag allocation committee, it's been quite a while since we had a survey conducted, and it's often a discussion at the commission level and the committee level. Are we really hitting our target audience of our hunting public? The 60,000 people that apply for big game tags in the state of Nevada, are we accurately reflecting their wants, wishes, desires? Because the people that show up, the people that sit on the commission, the county advisory board members that show up, we are all pretty avid, and maybe we have a skewed view of the world compared to everybody else. So with that thought process, we wanted to see what the average hunting public thought. And wanted to make sure that our tactics that we were using are on track and we're not missing something when it comes to quality, quantity, what is expected of our clients. So with that, we contacted University of Idaho through Bob Wayne and Director Wasley, and they helped us put together a survey that was unbiased, and many of the questions that we came up with as committee members and cabs, we were looking for an answer, and instead of looking for an answer, we needed to get an unbiased question to accurately reflect what the answers really are. So with the help of professional survey people, I think we came out with a good product that we can use going into the future again.
So again, for the record, Bob Wayne, we started this survey effort, I guess, in earnest probably last summer, although I think members of the tag allocation application hunt committee had an interest in this for a long time prior to that. So last summer, we contacted Idaho Fish and Game, who referred us to staff at the University of Idaho. They have a background in human dimensions research. And so initially made contact last year with Dr. Nick Saniel and Dr. Ed Crumpy, and we started this journey, like I say, during the summertime, and then we kind of cranked it up with some help from the committee and from the cabs on some questions. But we eventually turned to the researchers at the university who have a lot of background in this, and so this survey started to come into the fold, and we finally kicked it off in January. So with me today is Dr. Ed Crumpy. He's a professor of wilderness management at the University of Idaho. Just a little bit of a background, then what I'll do is I'll provide his bio to Suzanne for the record here. He's got a Bachelor of Science from West Virginia University in Forest Recreation, a Master's of Science in Recreation and Parks Administration from Indiana University, and he got his PhD in Natural Resources from Colorado State University. And there are a number of publications that he's authored or co-authored along with Dr. Saniel. I think the more recent noteworthy ones were kind of right up our alley, what we're looking for here. They did an awful lot of stuff for Idaho Fish and Game related to elk hunting and probably 6 or 7 different types of surveys with mule deer hunting. So in the support material that you have, that came We got that probably in middle of April. That's the full report. And what you're going to see here in a minute is a PowerPoint presentation that's kind of an abbreviated piece of that report hitting the highlights. So let me introduce again Dr. Ed Crumpy, and we'll turn him loose on this, and then we'll go from there.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks, Commission. It's great to be able to work with the great state of Nevada, and it's been a real pleasure to work with the Nevada Department of Wildlife. We're waiting for that. So what I'm going to present is a summary of the final reports, typical mule deer hunting management experiences and attitudes and preferences of Nevada mule deer tag applicants. And what we strive for, and we're fortunate enough to obtain, was an unbiased representative sample of mule deer hunting populations in Nevada. And it was collected between January 10th and April 11th. Because of the solid response and the analysis, the results are accurate, better than plus or minus 5% at the 95% confidence limit. And so that's an important statistic too. Working with the TAC committee, we identified some areas that they wanted questions written about. We've provided some questions that we've used in the past because we've been doing this. I've been involved with Dr. Samuel for about 35 years at the University of Idaho doing survey research. And then they provided a lot, and we helped craft the questions, and we field tested it with people in our community just to make sure that the public was reading right. So address such things as, quality, what makes up quality hunting, some things about hunter behavior, when they like to go, hunter satisfaction, evaluation of potential management options. There was questions about the structure of the season, and also perceptions of what do people consider trophy animals, and how interested are they in that. And then just some descriptions of the hunters, the demographics that describe them. So the department had 57,000 applicants for big game tags in 2012. And so they provided us a random sample of the addresses of 1,200, which we deemed would be enough to represent that population. And so these were people who applied for mule deer tags in 2012 and 2013. They also, through their sampling process, provided about 10% of non-resident hunters, because that's represents what's going on in this state, and about 4% of people that only apply on paper and don't use the online. We recognize that that's a concern. We wanted to be able to reach everybody. We had 1,162 of those were deliverable, and 638 actually completed the survey. So that's about a 55% response rate, which we consider is more than adequate. One of the things that we've specialized in is what we call this hybrid survey. So we make it available both as a mail survey, and so a lot of people, if they wanted, could receive a paper copy, and it was printed up as a booklet. But then we had the exact same identical survey, identical in every manner, every answer, and the graphics and everything that was available online. And so people were given a choice that they could do either one. And let me just go back a second. So about 68% decided to do it online, and others decided they'd wait until they got the paper survey. So they had the choice. That way, we were able to merge the data because the questions were all in the exact same order and it asked exactly the same. The process, I won't track you through all of this, but we worked with, back in December and January, we worked with the department. The department actually sent out the letter inviting, they notified people that a survey was going to go on, and then they sent out a letter inviting them to participate. And in that letter, we had a link that people could put in any web browser and go to the survey online, where they were told if that was inconvenient or they wanted to, they could wait, and in a couple weeks we would send them a paper copy. And so surveys started to trickle in. We did have our phone number. We had very few phone calls, almost no complaints. The only frustration was some people would put the address in a search engine instead of in their browser. And once we just told them what that was, then it came right up. So we had the survey open for about 90 days. We've had 6 people come in after we had printed up the report. So, but we feel that was long enough to give everybody a chance. And we had some multiple reminders. We sent out an email thanking people and saying, if you haven't, please do it. And then Bob's staff also sent out another reminder. So that's that helped get that nice response rate up. So let's kind of move to the results. Basically, about 88% were male. They averaged about 50 years old. 72% were Idaho residents. Nevada residents. It's too many times to another commission. Nevada residents. They live in Wausau and Clark counties, and I think Elko might have been the next. Pretty high employment rate, about 70% were employed. An experienced bunch of hunters. They've hunted in Nevada for over 19 years. They've been applying for the draw on average, reported about 17 years. And so, like I said, you have a lot of dedicated hunters in this state. They typically hunt with other tag holders, and they also, it's a social event in that people like to go out. Sometimes they don't have a tag and they go with other people, or they get invited to go. So then finally, when we ask about weapon of choice, the predominant answer was, as far as drawing a tag, they would go with any legal weapon was their first preference. So as far as some of their preferences, we had a question that asked about the preference of when they prefer to hunt. And so what I've done is the bold figures show some that are a little bit higher, but opening day, about 38%, 38.5% said that they typically would avoid opening day or the first weekend. But then the first week was very popular. 80% said first week or any weekend or any weekday. And then the last week also was pretty high. So all those shows that they're interested in access and getting out there and hunting a lot with just a little bit less favor right at the opening, which I think is probably understandable. We asked questions about their expectation of being successful in drawing a tag. And so we broke this down into the non-residents that responded and the residents. And residents, more than a quarter, 26%, expected to draw a tag every year, or it rose up to 39% that expect to draw a tag every 2 years. Now, the Nevada residents didn't, of course, have that high of an expectation. They were expecting or hoping to draw one every 3 years or every 4 years. And then some even said their expectations was more like for every 7 years. But so basically the Nevada hunters had a higher expectation of wanting to be able to draw a tag every year. As far as describing what makes up a quality hunting experience, the responses are shown at the bottom. From the middle was, well, from not important to somewhat important to moderately important, quite important, or extremely important. And so these are the average scores, but able to hunt with family and friends and able to hunt the #1 unit of choice was right up there, scoring above moderately, close to quite important. And then lower hunter densities and seeing trophy deer was also important. It starts to drop off a little bit when you're harvesting large antlered deers and able to hunt deer every year. That still was somewhat important, but not as high as the ones at the top of the chart. Able to hunt and not encounter OHVs and able to hunt with OHVs was down there in that somewhat important. And harvesting a doe was the least important as far as what they defined as important for a quality hunt. we had a series of questions about the motivations to hunt. And this has been asked in many states and in many surveys around the country. So some of those recognized and a few of these were provided by the department. But they could score them from 1 not important to 5 extremely important. And so none of these on average were extremely important. But if they scored in an average of 4, that's really pretty darn important. And you'll notice on the left-hand side that being close to nature, bringing back memories, teaching children to hunt, viewing scenery, those are all important to hunters. And it has to do with enjoying the great outdoors. Seeing deer is important, getting away from the demands of life and doing something with family. Our physical and social aspects. There's only one in there that directly deals with harvest and getting a good shot at a deer, but being with friends was right up there and getting to know the lay of the land and develop friendships and companions. And we found this in survey after survey of both mule deer hunters, elk hunters, across several states, is that as far as what motivates them to hunt, it's more than just the harvest. Now, moderately important was keeping physically fit, learning about deer, experiencing tranquility, learning more about nature, the excitement of it, thinking about personal values, and then harvesting large antlered buck came up into moderately important, and these are listed in the rank order they occurred. And testing abilities and sharing what they've learned, and using the equipment, but then stalking deer skills. So these were moderately important. And then when you get down to the little bit less, down to somewhat important, we get down into that area of putting meat on the table, hunting skills, developing spiritual values, harvesting any buck. So now we start to see under the somewhat important, a little more emphasis on the actual harvest. And then not important was harvesting any deer, showing others I can do it, so they're not show-offs, that's good. Harvesting a small antlered buck or harvesting antlered doe or competing against others, those were really down there as not important. But I guess in general, I'd like to say that Nevada hunters are pretty similar to many others, that there's a lot that goes into why they hunt and what motivates them to hunt. And of course, deer is important, but opportunity and enjoying the great outdoors and being with people is very important. We had a question that said, in areas where doe harvest may be necessary in order to achieve management goals, would you support either sex archery tags? And so you notice we qualified that in areas where harvest might be necessary to achieve management objectives. And we gave them this type of response instead of a yes/no, because it allows people to say, I favor it, or I do not favor it, but it's acceptable to me. And so typically you can lump those together as being acceptable. And then only 7% just said that's not acceptable, and about 11% said, I just would need more information. So there you have this acceptable rate. When you add those two together, it's about 81%. So using it to accomplish management objectives is all right with the majority of people. The question on trail cameras said, how do you feel about the use of personal trail cameras for monitoring wildlife during hunting? And there you have 28% favoring it, 38% didn't necessarily favor it, but they said it was acceptable. But you have about a quarter of the people that said they don't think it's acceptable. So there you have a little bit more contention and a little bit wider spread of opinion. The question was, are you in favor of antlerless hunts, harvesting does for mule deer, if it could improve deer herd health or result in more fawns or larger bucks? And so there, it's pretty clear that if you're doing it for those purposes, that the absolute strong majority, 88% of the non-residents and 85, almost 86% of the residents said that they would be in favor of that. question that asked, how would they change their hunting behavior if hunting opportunities were decreased where they hunt? And so what we had was some options that the department gave us of how they may react. And so it would shift to hunting other species in Nevada. A small percent said that that would be likely, but would quit complying for tags. That was very unlikely. Would not change Nevada tag application behavior. They said no, they wouldn't change that. Would change weapon type for increased deer harvesting opportunity. And actually, that was fairly unlikely. So like I said, they're a dedicated, loyal bunch of hunters. And even if their opportunities are decreased, they're still going to be very interested and likely to continue their efforts to hunt. So now this, what we're showing here is that the green is acceptable and in the orange is not acceptable. So we had potential management options, and they had to, which they were asked to rank. So special trophy areas was highly acceptable, more than almost 80%. Wilderness area only hunts actually came up with 67% supporting that. More late season hunts and shorter early season hunts with any legal weapon, that's still up in that 60%. And the next two, several shorter seasons with reduced tags and reduced tag availability in longer seasons, that you still are having well over half. You have a solid majority there, 58% of the people still supporting it. But you'll notice the whatever that is, the yellowish lines start to increase when you get down there that are not acceptable. So lower harvest success, but more opportunity. About half the people supported it, but there's a little bit more opposition to that, 30%. And then shorter season with down to 30, from 30 down to about 14 days, but having more tags. That's one that is pretty split on whether it was acceptable or not. And then the last two, fewer tags and limited non-hunters and party, that wasn't acceptable. And 2 or 3 shorter seasons draw more tags. That also was less acceptable. So there's no clear-cut answer there, but I think you can judge when you consider some of these options that you'll face in the future. You'll have this set of data that truly represents representative of what 57,000 hunters feel about these topics. We had questions about satisfaction with the hunting experience. And so here we show the scale was, right in the middle was neither satisfied or dissatisfied. To the right is satisfied and then very satisfied, and to the left was dissatisfied and very dissatisfied. And so in the satisfied portion above the red line, weather conditions and amount of access and length of season and overall quality of experience were all fairly pretty high satisfaction rate. Timing of season dropped off just a little, and then number of OHVs encountered was satisfactory, but closer to the neutral, and number of other hunters seen was about neutral. Below the red line is where you have people expressing some dissatisfaction. So number of deer seen, a little bit dissatisfied with that. Number of bucks seen, a little more dissatisfied. Number of harvestable deer, and then the number of large antlered bucks, which you'll notice these are average scores. And so they're not scoring that way down, and they weren't very dissatisfied. They were just not, they were just somewhat dissatisfied. So we had a question about their satisfaction level with the chance of drawing a tag. And here we split it out with the yellow is resident and the blue is non-resident. And so pretty neutral, 36% of the non-residents and 28% right in the middle there were neither satisfied nor dissatisfied. But on the satisfied side, you'll notice that the Nevada hunters were more had a higher level of satisfaction. With you've got 28% and very satisfied, you have another 4%. So there is dissatisfaction though. If you look to the left, about a quarter of the Nevada hunters and a little bit more of the non-residents were a bit dissatisfied with their chances of drawing a tag. Then we had a question, so that was drawing a tag. And so then the question was more specifically about how satisfied are they with the job that the department is doing with managing the mule deer population. So it wasn't about the department, but about how satisfied are they with managing the mule deer population. And this is a pretty strong response. So 32, almost 33% are satisfied or very satisfied. You'll notice the non-resident hunters are quite pleased. On the dissatisfied side, you have some. There's 16% and 12% that was very dissatisfied. But overall, this is I've done this with a number of different game populations and state game agencies, and this is a pretty decent score. And so, sure I did this. Then the commissioner of the committee was interested in what people thought was affecting the mule deer population. So we listed a variety of things that that could possibly be affecting mule deer populations. And what we have here is that 71% said that they think that predators like coyotes, mountain lions, and bobcats are likely to be affecting the mule deer population. Competition from wild horses, over half of the respondents thought that. Illegal mule deer harvest, like poaching, over half thought that that was a bit of a problem. Starts to drop off a little bit. Loss of habitat due to housing, mining, energy development. So we were talking about, you know, the spread of urban development. So they still thought that that was a likely contributor. When you get down to competition from livestock, it's a wash. There were, 34%, about a third said that it was unlikely, a little less than a third said that it was neither likely or unlikely, and then a little more than a third said that, yeah, competition from livestock was likely. And the same with competition from elk. Roughly a third felt that work in competition and that was would affect the populations, but also about a third were equivocal, or a third said no. Wildlife disease, actually that's a little bit higher there at 43%. But then legal harvest of mule deer, more than half, 52%, really thought it was unlikely that the harvest rate and the type of harvest was what was affecting mule deer populations. It's hard to ask about how important trophy hunting is, and so we talked back and forth and had some phone calls. So we ended up asking it two different ways. And so what we did was we said we tried to, some people were really interested in trophy, and some people were interested in just harvesting, and that's labeled the opportunistic hunter. And so I don't care about the size, harvesting a mule deer each season is most important. 47.9% of the residents said, yeah, so that's close to half, but a little more than half said, I'm more interested in a mature or trophy deer and will often bypass a chance to shoot smaller bucks. And people also in their written comments commented on that. So this is an amazingly even split that some people consider themselves more interested in trophy animal, and others, they want the opportunity to harvest. So the other way we asked it was we provided a slider where on the left it said I'm primarily a trophy hunter, and on the right it said I'm primarily an opportunistic hunter. And so the percentages are at the bottom, but right in the middle was the largest percent. The largest average score was 11.9% said they were right in the middle on that. And that kind of matches up with the way it was asked above. And then for non-residents, almost all of them said that they were, many more said they were primarily interested in trophy hunting and trophy animals. So by asking it both ways, we get a better feel. They both confirm each other. And some people have a little difficulty. They don't like to classify themselves. They say, well, yeah, but, and so that causes some angst. And so that's why we ask it both ways. And that shows where they're coming from. Pretty equal split. Of course, the next question comes, if you're interested in trophies, how do you define a trophy animal? And so one thing I left off is we had something on weight, and that just, people either misinterpreted or what. I've never seen an 800 or 1,200 pound mule deer, but so, and I've never seen a 3-pound one either. So we're not sure why they didn't fill in weights very accurately. But these other things, antler points per side, this is only from the hunters, the 57% that expressed an interest in harvesting trophy mule deer. So we weren't asking the people that said, I'm an opportunity hunter, but those that are interested in trophies, 4 inches, the antler length about 21.5 inches, well, 4 points above, antler spread about 28 inches, and then the Boone and Crockett or the Pope and Young, which is for both, they're interested in a buck that would score out around 180. So that gives some guidance to, they want to, their conception of a trophy animal, they weren't all in agreement, but they want a pretty good healthy buck. Hunters have the ability to turn in a tag, and what we found out was that 88% of the residents said no, they didn't. And just a few, 7% and 6%, said that in 2012 or 13 they had turned in a tag. Obviously, the non-resident hunters, we're not turning in a lot of tags either. So this was a way to quantify it. And then, like I said, people like to go with others or have others accompany them. So we did not draw a tag, but accompanied family or friends. And there, 77%, almost 78% of Nevada hunters, resident hunters, said that they did accompany other people hunting when they didn't draw a tag. So that seems to be pretty important. Of the non-residents, of course, they're traveling further, and it's that was pretty evenly split. Some went out, but less did. It's important that you know where hunters are getting their information. So we had a series of questions on that. And this, there's some real similarities to lots of studies I've done before, and Nick and I have done before. But the other hunters, the friends, word of mouth always comes out on top. People are asking other guys and other friends about what they feel about mule deer management and what's going on and stuff. So other hunters and friends, there's up in the 60%. But this is really surprising to me. I don't know about you. You have a nice website and it's been remodeled, revamped, whatever you do to your website. So that's 60% of the residents, and 55% said that the Nevada Department of Wildlife website was important, and then the reports and publications and pamphlets are up there pretty high. And this is really pretty high. So they're going to the site, they like it, and they're seeing it as pretty decent information. When you get into the mass media, newspapers drops off a lot. Of course, resident hunters would pay a little more attention, 28% to newspapers, and non-residents not so much. Internet and internet forums. We're asking about internet sources other than the department webpage. And so there you have about 1/4 of the people that are going to other sport-type associated web pages and saying that was a place where they got information. But it was much less than checking out the department one. And obviously, you notice these do not add up in a column. They do not add up to 100% because we asked them to check all that apply. So, I mean, many people would go to NDAL and check other things. Magazines dropped way off. The county advisory boards were only listed by about 10% as that was the source of where they got information about mule deer hunting. We have another question about this too. TV was way down there, and radio was pretty inconsequential. So those types of mass media are not seen as reliable sources. How do you get more hunters involved, and what's their interest of getting involved? What we found was that 67% of the resident hunters were not aware of the advisory boards, the system. So that's almost 2/3 saying they just were not even aware of them. Of the 32.9% that were aware, 3/4 of them have not attended a CAB or a Wildlife Commission meeting in the last 3 years. So you have about 1/3 of the people, of the hunters that are aware, that 75% of those that are aware still don't attend or participate. And then we asked if they belong to other conservation or sportsman organizations. And so 68% said that they do not belong to other organizations. And then we asked if they're interested in learning more about this. Now this is of the people that were aware of the county advisory boards. And more than 1/4, 27.3%, said that they are interested in becoming more involved in wildlife management issues, particularly mule deer management. So there's an interest there. They're just not availing themselves of participating in the CABs or coming to commission meetings. I think that's the message there. We asked how aware they were, and so of those that were aware, you'll notice that they've hunted, the people that were aware of the advisory boards hunted about 30 years on average hunting, so definitely the more experienced hunter. And they'd been applying for tags for over 25 years. The satisfaction with the chance to draw a tag wasn't too different. That isn't a 3%. That's on a score when they had those scales from very satisfied. A 3 was pretty neutral. And then trophy versus opportunistic. That was on that score from 1 to 11, that slider. And so the people that weren't aware were a little bit more interested in trophy. Residency, people that were aware of the county advisory boards had lived in and been residents for 40 years almost. So you do have a difference of the older, more experienced hunters are the ones that seem to be aware. As far as attending the county advisory boards or the wildlife commission meetings, those that have attended, once again, kind of reflects that other data, and that about 1/3 of them had attended. As far as applying for tags, they had been applying for tags longer. They had a little bit higher satisfaction rate, probably because they'd attended and seen what all goes into it. And then satisfaction with the department's management. Even those that haven't attended scored that at an average of 3. And then years of residency, once again, people that had lived here a lot longer, down there at 43%, was more likely to have attended. So we just wanted to break that out for you so that as you consider how to use your county advisory boards, you have a little more information about where people are coming from. Those membership in conservation organizations, once again, they're those that are members are more likely to have hunted longer, have been applying for tags longer, and are a little bit more satisfied, and they've also been longer residents. So that portrays that the more experienced hunters that have been out there longer are more involved. Then when we asked if they wanted to become more involved in wildlife management, it's interesting that, 1/5 of the people said they don't know. I'm not sure why they'd say that, but we had to give them the choice. But you do have about a quarter said that they were interested, and about a quarter said they, well, I'm sorry, for how long they've hunted in Nevada, they averaged, people who are interested, averaged about 25.9 years. For how long they've been applying for tags, those that were interested have been doing that for 20 years. And so their satisfaction level was about in the middle, and opportunistic versus trophy, or trophy versus opportunistic, they were scored pretty well in the middle. And years of residency, actually, some of the people who are here longest had a little bit higher number of years residence. But so this just gives you some background for the type of people you might reach out to get them more interested. Now, overall, some takeaway points, and then we can use this for discussion if necessary. First of all, I'd like to say that the Nevada mule deer hunters are very experienced. I see them as loyal hunters, and they're willing to share their opinions. And so we had a great response. And of those that logged on to the website, 93% that started it finished the survey, and that's really way up there. So yeah, you have a dedicated, loyal bunch of hunters out here. We feel, as a takeaway point, that because of the response, and we look at how much variation in each answer and stuff, this is a really good representative sample of what those, we couldn't survey all 57,000, but we feel this is a real good, really well represents those. The other thing that I think you may have noticed is that, this is my words, hunters kind of want it all. They want a tag every year. There are lots of access to tags. They kind of want less congestion. Of course they want big bucks. But lots of times these things that they want are at cross purposes. And I'm not, this isn't anything new to you, but just realize they do want a lot, and they expect a lot out of their experience. And so that's why you have to wrestle with the decisions. The other thing was that the hunters were really satisfied with the department's management of mule deer. They were a little less satisfied with the chances of drawing a tag, but as far as relying on the Nevada Department of Wildlife for information sources, they were really satisfied with that. So I think that's a really positive result. And then just a few more. It came across, when you look at all the questions in general, that hunters are willing to accept regulations if it's to protect the health of the herd, or it has to do with the health of the herd. They seem much more willing to accept regulation or tweaking and changes if it's for that purpose. They favor regulations that provide a variety of opportunities to hunt. So opportunity, the ability to hunt, is important, and they like it so that you have the way to draw it and stuff is that you have a variety of opportunities. So they do want to protect opportunity to get out there and hunt. They're split between interest on trophy deer versus opportunity to harvest, and that's just something you have to keep in mind and deal with. But they definitely, like I said, really want to, really dedicated hunters. And then the other thing is that hunters in this state, like many other western states, they're motivated to hunt for many reasons, and it's not just driven by harvest. Sometimes we tend to focus on that or hear complaints about that, but they want to be out there. They want to enjoy the experience. They want to do it with family and friends, and they enjoy even taking other people with them or accompanying other people if they're not successful in drawing a tag. So with that, I think also that last set of data I went through, and the commission, well, you all have the whole report. Hunters are interested in becoming more involved, and so you have to figure out ways to get to them. But the interest is there. And then that's the end, and I'm willing to entertain some questions if, sure.
Come up here so you get some questions on your
While the commissioners are coming back, So these results, and soon this PowerPoint will be hung up.
Yeah, again, for the record, Bob Hoyan, right now on the tag application website, we have the report, and there's an extensive list of written comments, 131 pages of written comments. And we're also going to put this presentation on the website as well.
So let me mention this. There are a couple places, we call it an open-ended response. So there's a little box that they could answer. And when you have that on a paper survey, lots of times people just put little brief things like, yeah, I want more, or something like, or it was okay. But when you do an online survey, you know, people are used to, I don't know what you call it, blogging or whatever. We got a lot of comments. Now then the question becomes, well, what do you do with it? Because it's not statistically representative of everything. But so what you do is you collect those comments, and then we submitted that as a separate document that's hung online there. And we categorized what types of things they were saying and addressing. But we didn't just pull out the words that mentioned something about access or predators or something. What we did was we showed you their whole comment. So it looks like a big report, but you'll see the whole block of comments mentioned several times. And the reason you do that is you have to take these things in context. So if someone, you know, there may be one topic that says something about, I don't know, about access or something. But if the person was saying, you know, I don't like the government, I don't like taxes, I don't like, you know, the city streets, and I don't like whatever, well, then they have something of, I don't like how many chance of getting a tag. We feel it's important that we show that under ability to get a tag, but we show it with what else they were saying. And sometimes the others are actually much more relevant. I just use that as a silly example. That many times they'll comment on something about access or predators or whatever, or seasons or units. But if you look at the whole comment, it's in context. So I think that provides you all with a wealth of information to see what else they're thinking. But as far as representing the 57,000 hunters, the survey data is what that's for. And then these open-ended comments kind of inform you about where they're coming from. But you can't cast them as representative of 57,000, because a lot of people didn't respond. We just tried to break it out so you could see all that. So I'm sorry, you had a question, right?
Yeah, the one, I saw two answers that I was having a hard time reconciling. There's one question that says,
Mike, can you speak into the microphone, because we can't hear you.
one of the, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, one of the questions asked, would you support a special trophy areas? And that had a really high, 77%, said that they would support special trophy areas. And yet, when you ask the questions, are you a trophy hunter or are you just a out for the opportunity? Those are kind of middle of the road. And so I'm trying to reconcile those two. What are the middle of the road hunters saying that they support, the special trophy areas? In other words, what is causing that difference, do you think?
Okay. So, like I said, people are a bit equivocal. Some consider themselves opportunity hunters and some consider themselves trophy hunters. And a lot wrote in and said, I've passed up bucks because I'd like to get a bigger one. And others said, that I want to put meat on the table. But they're not mutually exclusive. Some seasons you might be really interested in trophy, and some seasons you might be pretty opportunistic. So I think that it does represent both sides, and that the opportunistic hunters are saying, yeah, if there's some way they had some place that there's, they grow bigger trophies, yeah, that would be fine with them. I'm not against trophy bucks. And so I think they see that another part of that variety of opportunity.
Thank you.
Commissioner Drew?
Well, one of the questions that I guess, one of the items that I had a question on that struck me a little bit is you asked about the different things that affect the perceptions on what affects mule deer populations. And you had habitat in there, but you kind of boiled it down to a subset of options, kind of the development type options. And you didn't ask anything specific to like wildfire. And I was curious what the thinking was there, because it would seem to me you might get totally different responses.
Right, and so we had quite a bit of phone call discussion back and forth about how to ask that question. And so, I mean, obviously wildfire can affect habitat, but this other thing is, I mean, it's two broad categories of what's affecting habitat. So creeping development and you know, roads and subdivisions and mining and stuff like that, that's one type of thing. And that's pretty right there, and that's pretty permanent. Where wildfire comes and goes, sometimes hindsight's a little better. We probably should have had a separate question that asks about the perception of wildfire. I mean, wildfire can have pretty devastating effects if cheatgrass and things come in afterwards. But lots of times, I mean, we've had wildfire since the beginning of time, so it doesn't necessarily destroy habitat. So it's not always a destruction of habitat. And so with that, you know, that much confusion, we decided to not try to overwhelm the question and ask about the development.
Okay. Director Walsley.
Yeah, just a point of clarification on that. We did have quite a bit of discussion about wildfire. And the original survey had two different line items for habitat. One being what was viewed as more permanent loss, one being wildfire. My concern was that subdividing habitat into those different categories might not give us a full understanding of sportsman appreciation for the role of habitat, and it was our desire to include that, but we didn't effectively communicate that, so it was dropped out and left off, because as we know in Nevada, fire is as permanent or more permanent than urbanization or roads, so that was an oversight or miscommunication in that regard.
Any other comments? A couple takeaways I got from this. I've often said that I don't know how many of our hunters know how this process works. In the county advisory board interaction with the commission's interaction with the department. And this survey shows that our hunting public doesn't understand this process at all. Very few of us understand the process. And so that's disappointing to me, because everybody in this room spends a lot of time working on that process. And I know I talk to a lot of people. I know you all talk to a lot of people. And that message isn't getting out there. So are we broken in place? Yeah, we may be broken right there. But the other takeaway I get from this is what we've been doing with the management of our mule deer resource. The survey says that the hunting public is satisfied with Andal's management of the mule deer resource. And everything we're doing as CAVS, Commission, and the department seem to be matching the expectations of our hunters by the results of the survey. So even though we have an uneducated public that's participating in this, we're seem to be matching their expectations somehow. So it's enlightening in ways, but it's confusing in others. So, Director Walsley, do you have any specific takeaways from this, being the former mule deer staff specialist, that you'd like to share? I put you on the spot.
Yeah, it would have been nice to think about that for more than 30 seconds. I think that Ed kind of captured it in some of the takeaway points, and that's just the mutual exclusivity of some of the objectives. And I don't know if there's a way to tease apart which is more important, the lack of congestion, the increased chance of drawing a tag, or the size of the antlers. But obviously, some of the expectations or desires are impossible to accomplish given the limited habitat and limited mule deer resource that we have. So it just, you know, we've done these surveys in the past. This is probably the third such effort. We do them roughly every decade. And although this is kind of a unique way of doing it, I think it provided more insight and is more scientifically defensible than some that we've done in the past. It has validated a lot of, I mean, you kind of speak to it when you say that despite the fact that a lot of folks aren't participating or aren't aware of this process, they still support what's going on. And so, you know, I don't know if it's because of the past surveys, but it certainly validates a lot of our management actions.
Commissioner Macbeth?
I was kind of interested in some of the non-resident responses, and overall, I kind of take away from it that non-resident hunters are a lot more happy with the state of affairs in Nevada than the residents, which kind of tells me that I think our Nevada residents are a little spoiled. Yeah, they do have some criticisms, but they also seem to be happy. But when you're on the outside looking in, it seems to me that the vote of confidence from the non-residents, and a lot of those non-residents are pretty dedicated hunters, and so I think that's a vote of confidence for NDOW and the commission and our whole process.
Anybody else have any comments? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to, one more comment. I'd like to thank you for the way that this came about. Thank you for coming and spending part of your day with us, and I think it gives us an outline of what we need to work on and where we're being successful.
I consider it a privilege to work with the department. It's been a good experience.
Thank you.